Stay on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I am your host, Christian Williams, and I am here with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, dude?
Doing pretty good, man. Long weekend of work and football, but just love watching the Raiders line look terrible on Monday night. This is fun.
Yeah, not ideal to be a Raiders fan right now. It's pretty rough. I'm sorry, dude.
It happens.
They'll turn it up. They'll turn it up in the second half.
They always do in the second half.
Yeah. So we are the Manning replacements for Monday Night Football this week. So if you guys are watching the Monday Night Football game and watching us live, we're not going to be commenting on the game. So it's kind of similar to what the Mannings do because they kind of just chime in with stuff. But we are here to talk about week 4 of the NFL, and I'm very excited to do that. It was a good week of football. Every week is a good week of football, but this one was especially good. And we'll also give some waiver wire suggestions in our waiver wire wish list segment. So anything to add before we get started, dude?
Nope.
I think we'll hit the plugs later. All right. Week 4 fallout. We always start this segment with the injury report. Unfortunately, while it was a good week of football, it was a bad week for injuries. We have quite a few big name guys. We've been getting a lot of guys that have been getting nicked up. However, some of the big names are going down. So first, we have David Montgomery. It looks like an MCL from what I've seen from physical therapists on Twitter. However, the actual report is coming out on Wednesday. Randy, we're going to talk about what the fallout is during the waiver wire segment, but how bad would this be for this Bears offense after watching him on Sunday?
Oh, it'd be detrimental to this team, which the offense, I would say, arguably has played maybe one full game of good offense. I'm talking about combined. And
Yeah,
Montgomery's been the kind of saving grace of this offense so far. Fields look good on Sunday. Obviously much better than he did against the Browns, but Montgomery has been solid, been leading this offense. It's kind of mixed reports. Immediately it was deemingly terrible, and then it's definitely tapered off since then. Kind of the same with Jimmy G, where it went it could be multiple weeks, and maybe he'll play. It's
it's crazy. Yeah, and with Montgomery too, it sounds as though he was fine in the locker room. A lot of people on the Bears team were saying, "Oh yeah, he was just walking around." So it sounds like he avoided anything major. Now I will say I've seen guys walk off ACL injuries, and so we hope that the MRI shows us nothing. Well, it's not going to show us anything, but it shows everyone, the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk about the fallout in a little bit, so I don't want to get too deep into that. Next up, we have Will Fuller. I know I said big name guys, and he hasn't really been that this year, but he is still a big name that's probably rostered in most of your fantasy football leagues. He is for sure out this week. He broke his finger. It seems as though it's going to be a week-to-week thing. They might put him on IR. I saw someone speculate that they might just toss him on IR. It's the state of the team is not very good right now, and so it might be smart to just save him for the stretch at the end.
I think a key thing with that, whether they want to just put him out for 3 weeks or not, will be how Preston Williams practices this week, because he's been off and on in practice. He hasn't suited up yet because he's been deemed hurt every single week. So if he can get into rotation this week, maybe they'll be more comfortable sitting Fuller for the stretch once Tua's back, but we'll see.
Yeah, and Tua is for sure out this week, but he's eligible to return next week. So, but better days ahead for the Dolphins, I believe. But it's a little rough right now. They probably should be on our low light segment. But we didn't
Can't
put them on
expect
the
much
dock.
when your quarterback's out, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, next guy, Teddy Bridgewater. He left the game with a concussion. He was having his worst game of the season. The Ravens kind of gave him fits, and then they got him concussed, and now he is in the protocol. And so there is a chance that he plays this weekend, but we know how the concussion protocol goes. We're going to know more Thursday, Friday than we will early on in this week. If you're someone who has to start Teddy Bridgewater and like single quarterback, you rode that wave for a little while, hop off the wave, hop onto a different wave. We'll probably give you some options if you are hopping off that wave.
Yeah, in single quarterback leagues, there's always at least a couple options. So,
yeah, for sure. Next, DJ Chark. He is out for the year. He was placed on IR today. Really, really sucks. And I got yelled at by a lot of Laviska Shenault truthers on Twitter. Laviska Shenault's good now. I said you can drop him, and I still mean that. I still think that he would have been droppable if Chark stayed healthy, but Chark is not healthy, and so you roster Shenault. I do think, like, Randy, are you comfortable starting Shenault on a weekly basis now?
I would say only in foreseeable blowouts.
Yeah.
Because of just a heavy passing volume, dump downs. I mean, he really had one long catch, and that ended up with a touchdown as well. That boosted the performance to startable this last week. I don't foresee a touchdown from him every week. Just like this offense has been struggling. So,
yeah. My thing with Laviska is if you weren't comfortable starting Chark, which I wasn't, and I am one of the bigger Chark truthers that I know,
very true.
And I was not comfortable starting Chark, then I can't be comfortable starting Shenault. I do think that I'm interested to see how this first week without Chark in the game plan plays out, because I think there's a chance that Tavon Austin or Jamal Agnew get some of the Laviska work, and Laviska goes into that Chark role. But Laviska is not built for the full Chark role, and he needs the short to not even really intermediate. Like he is a good yak receiver, and they should continue to get him in space. So I'm interested to see that usage this week. Next up, we have Jimmy Garoppolo, and we already touched on him. He left the game, I believe, right before half was when it was.
Yeah.
Because Trey Lance, I think, played on 51% of snaps. So it was right before half with a calf injury. And he said after the game, he said, I'll only be out a couple weeks. And then Shanahan or someone confirmed in a press conference that there's a chance that he plays this weekend. So I don't know if this is an indictment on how they feel about Trey Lance. There was also a report today that said no one in the organization ever expected Trey Lance to see the field this early. Not having a backup game plan for him, I think, is a knock on Shanahan. I don't think they were very well prepared for that. But do you think?
But yeah, I'll agree with you, because we've seen in the past other teams. We're just playing right now. Last year when Carr went down in the first quarter, whole different game plan for Mariota right away. That's what, and a lot of people don't view Gruden as a good coach anymore. That's a good coaching move. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, I do think that Garoppolo might give it a shot this week, because I do think that they're kind of going to force him out there. I don't understand the hesitancy with Trey Lance. I mean, kid put up some points. He struggled. He didn't throw the ball well, but you have to expect that, and you just have to game plan around that. I mean, be a good coach, Kyle Shanahan. I don't think he's very good, but yeah, we're not going to get into that. Next up, we have Logan Thomas, hamstring, I believe. Hamstring for him, week to week. Not great for a tight end to have a hamstring injury. We kind of saw a little bit of that with, I believe, George Kittle had one of those last year, and it kind of lingered for a little while. I know he had an ankle too. But I am a little nervous about Logan Thomas moving forward. Are you also nervous, Randy?
Not really. I mean,
That's fair.
he's been a borderline 1 all year. He's been somewhat consistent, I'd say, too. If he's healthy, I think I'd be pretty comfortable playing him.
Yeah.
It's just he's got to be on the field. We will see a new tweak to the offense with Samuel fully probably back next week into the fold. Getting off IR midweek wasn't going to land him a high game script by any means. I would expect him probably to sit this week just to make sure. And then we'll probably see something big from Curtis Samuel, and no one will want to play Logan Thomas the week after. So,
yeah. So just looking back on it, Logan Thomas scored almost double digits in each of the first 3 games where he played 100% of snaps. And then obviously he left week 4 after just 7% of snaps. He's still the tight end 19 in PPR despite posting an egg in week 4, which speaks to his consistency. I think once he's back, I think you're right. I think they hold him out this week. They do play the Saints, tough matchup. They have the Chiefs afterwards, though, and that's actually a decent matchup for tight ends at this point. And
yeah.
I think that's where we could see him come back. You mentioned Curtis Samuel. We should probably have him on our waiver list because I think people had dropped him because they got a little impatient. I don't know what his rostership is, but he did play. He was like the wide receiver 4 in snaps this week. But like Randy said, that was to be expected with him coming off IR so late. So yeah. I do expect he'll have a decent week this week. All right. And lastly, we talk about this guy on the injury report every year, unfortunately. Joe Mixon is week to week with a low ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain. So he did avoid that, which is good. Got through almost all of the game. But how do you view Mixon moving forward, knowing that his role was very Derrick Henry-esque in the first place? He wasn't really catching too many passes, and he wasn't really fantasy friendly the way we thought he would be. Now with this injury, is he an RB3 for the time being? How far down are you going to move Mixon?
Mixon, if he's playing, I'm not really moving him.
Okay.
He hasn't been like exclusively used in the passing game, but it's not really like that role is being taken from him. They're just not using it to the full extent yet. We did see a big game from the tight ends this last week. That won't happen every week. And I think with Higgins back and coverages and the box being a little bit less stacked because the 3 top-level receivers, he might get more work.
Yeah. To put into perspective what Joe Mixon has been doing this season, he's averaging over 4 a carry, which doesn't sound great, but then you look at like the rest of his career, it would be his best year if he paced this out since 2018, where he had his kind of breakout season. So Mixon has been very, very good. And if he is on the field, I think, like Randy said, you play him. I think you play him. You might temper your expectations a little bit, but just kind of like we did with Jacobs tonight, I think. Just hope for the best. That's what we always do with Joe Mixon anyway. So, all right, let's get into our highlights of the week. We'll get off the sad injury train and move on to the highlights. And I made the doc, so we get to talk about Justin Fields first, because I actually was unable to watch this game. It was not on Fox for me. And so I was kind of just opening up Twitter and watching, and then I did catch a little bit of the replay today. Justin Fields looked incredible. I think that was the best rookie performance. He threw a pick. It was tipped at the line of scrimmage. He did have a few mishaps, but the explosives were this is what Justin Fields does. They finally turned play calling back over to Bill Lazor, and he called a really good game. His average depth of target for the entire game was over 13, which is absurd for anyone, let alone a rookie quarterback. And I heard a stat today, his average depth of target off of play action was 20 yards. That's insane. I know he was 11 for 17, I believe was his final stat line. Didn't throw a touchdown. Probably could have. Mooney kind of got caught from behind on one of those balls, but What did you think of Justin Fields this week, Randy?
I think he played efficient and explosive, which is a good combo for a rookie. Montgomery clearly leading the offense, Mooney being clearly his favorite target, with Robinson also getting obviously tougher coverage. I think the offense looked good under Fields. And I mean, again, it's against the Lions, so
yeah,
a little bit of a catch there, but I think he looked good. I mean, especially after a demoralizing performance last week, especially with a small injury that he picked up at the end of the game or whatever. But good overall. It's what you would we kind of hope for against the Browns. Kind of, he wanted nothing. I don't care about touchdowns. I don't care about rushing yards. Just for pure football, just wanted to see some good things.
Yeah, and I think we saw a lot of that. Like you said, Darnell Mooney, his favorite target. This is kind of what I was talking about before the season, guys. Darnell Mooney, if he had a quarterback last year, this would have been a weekly thing. And now I will say, and we'll get to Darnell Mooney in a little bit, but with the report that Andy Dalton is the starter if he's healthy, I don't know what to do with Darnell Mooney except probably stash him at this point. But when Fields plays, I think Mooney is a good flex play against most teams. Now, this week, Andy Dalton's health is still up in the air, and Justin Fields did not have a great fantasy football game. Again, he only threw 17 passes, and he did not run very much because he's a pass-first quarterback. He is not going to run like Trey Lance did. That's just not. He'll break some, but he's not going to do that constantly. This week, however, he does get the Vegas Raiders, and you can run all over them. I think we're seeing that right now, mostly with running backs, but I think that there might be a fantasy performance on the table for Justin Fields this week. Do you agree with that early assessment? I know we're not quite there yet.
There's a chance. I mean,
yeah.
The Chargers have been able to run a decent bit already tonight, but it's because they've been throwing the ball efficiently to start the game. That's not necessarily what the Bears have shown. So
that's true. I will also say, if Damon Arnett covers Darnell Mooney will have 7 billion yards. 7 billion, no less.
Maybe.
All right. Enough talk about Justin Fields. I'm sorry. The return. That was what the Tom Brady game was dubbed. It was called The Return. We had Adele singing all night. And the game was I guess my first thought on the game was, this is bad football. Brady was nervous. The Bucs defense was kind of getting after it a little bit, but dink and dunk Mac Jones was able to move the football a little bit. And then in the second half, it really ramped up. Everyone made me eat my words saying it was a bad football game, because it was a good football game. A lot of good defensive plays, but Brady, I think, kept his nerves throughout the game. What were your impressions of the return? Are you sad as also a Patriots fan?
No. It was a good game. I think a lot of the gripes about the first half, the heavy rain was a huge concern with that. Both offenses just kind of looked safe due to the rain. And there was a couple slip ball overthrows by Brady, a couple drops on both sides. So nothing great there. I thought it was a really good game. I think the Patriots played a little conservative on the potential game-winning drive, knowing they really only needed a field goal. So Brady and Brown not hooking up on 2 straight plays actually ended up helping them, I think, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because not that like Mac Jones was going to be unleashed in the last minute of the game to throw deep to Aguilar, because apparently that's not the playbook. But they were playing very even more conservative than they were all game in that drive. But overall, just a very good game. I agree. It seemed like it was probably the first time since Brady's like rookie year I really saw like some nerves that felt all game.
Nerves. I think against the Rams in the Super Bowl, I think he had a little bit of that. But
maybe But
every Super Bowl, it's like one drive and then it's gone. Like it was the whole first half for Brady, and it even trickled into the third quarter a little bit. Now, was it weather? Or was it nerves? I don't know. It felt like nerves. But
yeah, Bill threw the playbook at him. I think both teams deserved to win. Obviously, the Bucs came out with it, but it's a good game.
I would like to take this quick opportunity to clarify. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you can at @CWilliamsNFL if you don't. But I was tweeting about Mac Jones today and last night a little bit, mostly last night actually. And a lot of people are anointing Mac Jones as this great rookie quarterback because Chris Collinsworth was blowing his load all over the television last night. It was absurd commentary last night. Mac Jones, yes, we can let rookies be rookies for sure. However, his average depth of target on the year he's got 3 games under 6.5 yards per attempt. His or not yards per attempt, but average depth of target. And in this game, he was at 5.2. He threw one pass past 20 yards and it got intercepted. And so then people will say, well, that's just what McDaniels' offense asks him to do. That's not true. He just did the opposite against the Saints, and he threw 3 picks and only completed 58% of his passes. So what I'm trying to say is we knew Mac Jones had limitations, and just because he managed that game and he executed that game plan to perfection, that's what they wanted him to do. But we have to recognize that is an outdated offense, and I don't know how sustainable that is. Randy, do you think that if they do this the rest of the year, they can score points? I mean,
if they do that specifically, they can score 17 points. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to remember what this Patriots offense is built behind, and that's running the ball. Me and you, specifically me, just preached they're not going to be able to run the ball. I can promise you that they won't be able to run the ball. And that was only exemplified with Trent Brown being out. The Bucs defense is good against the run. There's no question about it. When they're healthy, they are quite possibly the most dominant run team in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't let you
healthy.
run on them unless like you're up at 20 somehow already, and they're trying to stop the pass more. Like they will stop the run more than anything. And again, like you said, if he's just going to spread out, dink and dunk, they'll be able to move the ball with some success. But that kind of offense breeds to field goals. In the NFL, field goals do not win.
Yeah.
Most weeks.
Yeah, and that's the other point I'm trying to make is we know that the NFL now is explosives. It's home runs and singles. And Mac Jones has the singles down. He hits a lot of singles, and that's great. However, they need home runs, and it can't be just when Jacoby Myers takes a double pass and throws it 30 yards downfield. I mean, that can't be your explosive plays, guys. So Mac Jones was good. I'm not trying to take it away from him. He put his team in a position to win, and Bill should have given him the ball on 4th and 3 or whatever it was. So, but temper those expectations that Chris Collinsworth was irresponsible about. All right, next highlight: Jalen Hurts. I watched a little bit of this game just to kind of fully prepare for this. Shout out Matt9, who he sent me his chart because he's big on Jalen Hurts, as am I. And Jalen Hurts looked quite good against the Chiefs. He had 6 deep attempts. We're talking about explosives in this last segment. 6 deep attempts. He was able to stretch the field. He looked like an NFL passer. And I know people were knocking him the week before against the Cowboys and saying he didn't. That Cowboys defense is feisty. And, the Chiefs defense really isn't right now. And he took advantage of that. Had a really good day. Randy, did you like what you saw from Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, it did. That's not just like this has been his first game this year that I'm like, that was his good game. Like he's had the 25 points in fantasy. He's had good fantasy games. I've preached on here many times. You could be a good fantasy player and not be a starting caliber NFL player every year, every week. I mean, that just happens. I mean, especially a quarterback, look at Taysom Hill. So Hurts actually played very, very good. Again, Chiefs defense, nothing to be feared necessarily. Not as ball hockey as the Cowboys have been this year either. So that helped.
Which sounds
But
weird.
I know, right? It's basically just Diggs.
Yeah, I know.
He's killing it.
That's good. Yeah, he is.
But he played very good. I just think it was a good game plan overall. They hung with the Chiefs through about, I would argue, 3/4. I
It was
almost
within
said 2.5, but I think I would say 3, maybe a little bit of change. So that's props to them. They're not a team that's equipped to handle the Chiefs for 4 quarters. So to stick with them with 3/4, I think he played very well.
Yeah. Just a quick run of his stats: 32 for 48, 387 yards, 2 touchdowns. He added 47 yards on the ground on 8 rushes. So he had over 430 total yards. That's outstanding. You can't ask for anything better. We saw I don't know if you guys follow like Lance Zierlein or anyone on Twitter. Lance Zierlein was a big doubter of Jalen Hurts. He had him graded very lowly, but said essentially like that's a backup in the NFL. Now he's kind of saying he's developed as a passer. We see the development and it's there. And so he's starting to change his tune on Jalen Hurts. I think a lot of people who are doubting Jalen Hurts should do the same. And in my opinion, you don't have to.
Hey,
do what you want.
We were more believers than most during the draft process for Hurts, as Facebook told us.
Yeah, they yelled at us a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Shout out that one guy. I forgot about that one guy that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I knew who it was.
That blocked you after you won a bet.
Yeah.
But either way, for me personally, at this point in his career, I don't want Hurts to throw the ball 40 times. I think 35. I think 40 is my cap for him to be a good game, efficient game, like the best we could get from him. But again, Chiefs, you kind of have to ramp up the offense as much as you can. So I'm fine with it. I'm just saying for future, if I get 35, 30 pass attempts from him, I think I'd be more happy.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, if the Eagles are controlling the game, they should be running him a little bit. You know, they
or
should.
Sanders at all.
Yeah. Or one of the guys we're about to talk about, I guess. All right, last highlight here: Cordero Patterson. I don't know how sustainable this is, guys. I know it's been sustainable through 4 weeks, and that's about 24% of the season, I think now. But Cordero Patterson had more fantasy points than he had snaps. He had 23 or 23% of the snaps, I think is what it is. Let me double check. No, 23 total snaps, 30% of the snaps, 34 fantasy points in most formats in PPR leagues. Just an absurd line. He had 6 carries for 34 yards. He had 5 catches for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, Cordero he's right now the RB2. he's the running back 2 in PPR leagues. So shout out zero running back people, because you won. You definitely won if that sustains. Do you see it sustaining, Randy?
No, but it can. I mean, clearly.
Yeah.
The efficiency won't sustain, but I think like he's not going to get this many touchdowns again. He's not going to get 34 fantasy points, but I don't view this as what your question is. I view the 10 to 15 points every week as the sustainability question. I think that has the chance.
Right. Yeah. With how they're using him, is Mike Davis dead?
No. They're actually Mike Davis is generally, I believe, out carrying him, or they're even. The thing is, Patterson is getting like 7 targets a game.
Yeah.
He's getting targets that, like, well, it's going to be Russell Gage, or it's going to be Zacchaeus, or Pitts, or Ridley is going to get all 30 targets a game. No, it's Patterson getting 7 to 10 a game. I don't know what to tell you.
It's absurd. The reason I asked, Mike Davis, 13 attempts, 14 yards, average 1.08 yards per carry. However, they're going to run him out there. He's scored double-digit fantasy points every game, and he's the RB27 right now. So hold on to your Mike Davis. I didn't draft too much of him because I figured this was where he would finish. And Randy always pointed out, I'm drafting him as my 3 or 4, so it doesn't matter. And you did a good job. Good job, Randy.
Generally, I do, yeah.
Yeah, you do, for sure. All right, we got to hit on some lowlights before we get into our waiver wire wish list. And the first one I want to start with is Big Washed, Big Ben.
Ooh, my sin of the week.
Yeah, Big Ben, just not an NFL quarterback at this point. I don't think. I think he's a backup quarterback, and I called for, we need some Dwayne Haskins, we need some Mason Rudolph, and someone said, "Have you seen Mason Rudolph?" And I said, "Yes, I have," and I would take him over Big Ben right now. Big Ben this week, 26 for 40. Not awful. 232 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Lost a fumble. Just multiple weeks of just not good play. Even last week against Cincinnati, threw for 318 yards, but threw 2 picks. Took 4 sacks. He doesn't have the ability to navigate the pocket, which was what made Big Ben very good. He's not seeing the field well. Is Big Ben toast, Randy?
Yes. Which is why he was my 30th quarterback ranked this week. I don't want to play Big Ben. There's just not. He's just not good, and he's gonna hit Deontay. I will play Deontay Johnson every single week in my number one receiver role if Big Ben's the quarterback, because that's all he can hit.
Yep. And Najee Harris too. I mean, you're playing those 2 players, and I think that's it. We saw Juju Smith-Schuster slam shit on the sideline. Big Ben missed him twice. Very similar to how this next guy missed another stud receiver multiple times. Big Ben just could not connect with Juju because Juju was running down the field more than -3 yards, which is where Ben makes his money, is behind the line of scrimmage. So
legitimately, they've done themselves a disservice by consistently disregarding getting the quarterback of the future, and just believing Ben would never be this bad. If you simply look at stat lines, it's going to be okay, because again, he's going to pump those 2 guys and he's going to get completions and some yards. But Haskins would be better at this point, and I think Rudolph even possibly could. I think I'd still take him over Delvin Hodges, but that's not saying much. So
yeah. So just for what it's worth, Ben Roethlisberger right now, his yards per attempt clip of 6.1 is 10th worst in the league, behind guys that have barely thrown a pass. The only 2 significant players, Davis Mills and Andy Dalton, are the 2 worst yards per attempt, and that's just what we're going to get out of Ben. It's not good. Another not good is a guy that I have sung praises for a very long time. I changed my tune before last year. Now
I know
it's all coming full circle, and I should have stuck to my take. No, I shouldn't have. Baker Mayfield is good. Baker Mayfield is this guy. Baker Mayfield played his worst, I think probably his worst career game, in my opinion. He took care of the football, so that was good. But in terms of what he left on the football field, I think he played his worst career game. Do you agree with that sentiment, Randy?
100%. He could not, in my opinion, he couldn't get into rhythm. And then when he kept fighting to get into rhythm, he kept overthinking every throw. And he repeatedly was high on throws. And it just didn't work. Obviously, this Browns rushing attack and O-line's good enough to keep the ball moving. But there was plenty of drives that should have been a touchdown or at least a field goal or something that just completely stalled because he was trying to overthink things, trying to fit in tight windows, just couldn't get into rhythm. And a lot of people are going to point to the 3rd down play where he missed a wide open Felton on the sideline. He has to hit that throw. He has to throw to him at least. But like that isn't like a point of where I'm gonna like point out, oh well, this was terrible. It's no, he literally looked uncomfortable, not in a rhythm. He just couldn't figure it out, and the Browns still won. So, I think that says a lot against a higher scoring offense, what the Vikings have been. So it was a really good performance by the defense, but he can't play like that.
No,
just period.
No matter how elite that defense is, Baker cannot play like that again. They should have lost that game. They should have won it 10 times, but they also should have lost it just simply because of how bad he was. Baker Mayfield yesterday, he was 15 for 33 for just 155 yards. And you mentioned that Felton play. That wasn't even the worst one. It might have actually been the same exact play, but they did show the behind the line camera, the all 22 essentially, a few times, and he missed Higgins wide open streaking across the middle, and he was already scrambling and falling out of the pocket. It looked like 2019 Baker. And I wonder, so Baker's been sacked 12 times this year. He was only sacked 26 times last year. I wonder if that's starting to get to him where he doesn't trust his line, because the tackles have been bad. You'll see that the pass block win rates are probably pretty good because the interior is holding it down, but the tackles are kind of leaving Baker out to dry. So,
when you have a revolving door at left tackle, it's going to be a little worrisome. Conklin's been all right. He's been better in run blocking for sure, at least from what I've seen. What did we always say like 2 years ago? He didn't feel comfortable because he kept getting sacked. He couldn't get in a rhythm because he didn't feel comfortable. I don't necessarily equate yesterday's game to the lie necessarily. I just think when he can't get himself into that rhythm early, he gets uncomfortable and then he starts overthinking. So that's got to be part of game planning, though. You got to get him in the rhythm.
Yeah, we do shoo you off to other podcasts, but shout out to Jake Burns and the work they do over at the OBR. They're going to have an all 22 breakdown of Baker, I believe, tomorrow night. They do that often. I think I'm probably going to take a look at his all 22 and just see what was going on. And it's worth noting that he also is still battling that shoulder injury. And I think from what I've seen, some of the physical therapists and doctors have said that is going to mess with his mechanics because it's tweaking everything upper body wise. So I don't know if maybe he sits a week and we can blame it on injury, or if he just tries to battle through it and is better. He's not going to be that bad the rest of the year.
No, it's worth point. I mean, there's no point in us constantly singing praises of Browns and then just being fanboys. Like, if something bad happens, we should point it out. Just like the Browns defense the first 2 weeks was terrible, and it's been incredible the last two. You got to point it out both ways.
For sure. And even me, as a Baker truther, he played like dog shit. I will put that take out there. All right, last thing on the lowlights before we get to the waivers. The Titans. Titans were a low light because they let the Jets win a game. They have the same record as the Jets. The Titans obviously were without Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, which obviously played a part in their loss to the Jets. But Derrick Henry had a good day, and they still weren't able to win this football game. And I think it comes down to their defense did not play well, and Zach Wilson had one of his breakout games too. He looked very, very good.
The defense didn't play well, and I would say Tannehill didn't play well. He played okay.
He looked similar to Baker, where he just kind of played nervous and he didn't know what was happening. That tends to happen without your top two targets, though.
True, I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's not an excuse. They should have beat the Jets, and AFC South is disgusting. The Texans might just go ahead and win that even after their 40-point freaking smash. All right. Do you have anything else to say about the Titans?
No.
All right, sweet. Let's get into our waiver wire wish list. Now, again, guys, every week we go over some guys that you could see on your waivers. They might not be there. A lot of these guys this week have close to 50% rostership, but it's worth checking. And these are the top guys that you guys probably should be looking for in our opinions. We're just going to jump right in. We talked about the fallout from the David Montgomery injury. Obviously, we don't know what the severity is, but the guy to pick up this week would be Damien Williams. Damien Williams right now, 14% rostered. He saw 33% of the total snaps, but he did get the lion's share when David Montgomery went down. It's seeming as though he is going to take over the entire role. The Bears did work out 3 running backs last week, 2 weeks ago. I think the 22nd of September was the report. They worked out Brian Hill and some other chumps. I don't know. Guys that won't take work away from Damien Williams. Damien Williams had a good fantasy football day as well. And so I think he's going to get slotted right into a role against the Raiders, like I mentioned earlier, where he should be able to run the football. Randy, how are you feeling about Damien this week?
Not good.
Okay.
Damien Williams is a decent back. I'm not opportunity-wise, I'm feeling decent about it. Obviously, depending on the Montgomery report back. However, Williams did not escape this game with a clean bill of health either. So for that, I am still very nervous. And when I think you could almost expect Montgomery to miss this week just to sit out and get healthy. But when Williams should play, but we don't know yet. It's one of those, how much do you really spend on the guy? And if anything, if you spend on him, do you play him because maybe he didn't even practice all week because he's banged up? So it's a risky scenario with Williams.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that front. I do think that if he goes, you start him as an RB2 this week. And that's my personal belief, and I haven't done my rankings yet, obviously, so I will report back on that on the Thursday episode on the podcast.
Yeah,
but
I will say they're clarifying his injury as a upper thigh bruise, which you would assume means he's okay to play, but there's probably a ton of soreness in the quads and hamstrings there. So we'll see. Again, if he's taking over a starting role for a week or two and he does not practice, I don't know how much I want to put stock into that.
That's fair. And I can report. So I hurt my quad playing softball. Probably not as bad as Damien got hurt. Limping like a little baby today. So he's probably in some pain. I don't know.
It's fair. It's very fair.
Yeah. All right. Next guy. We're going to talk about a couple of tight ends, and we're going to start with Dawson Knox. This was my start of the week last week. I told my boss to start him. I felt good about it, but also nervous. And then he came out and he had 5 catches for 37 yards, which sounds awful, but he caught 2 of those for touchdowns. He is 50% rostered in leagues right now, which means that 1 out of 2 of you that are listening right now have an opportunity to get him in your league probably. So he's the tight end 5 on the year, which will hold just based on Darren Waller's kind of no-show tonight. Although I haven't been paying attention, Darren Waller might pass him just based on what he's done.
Darren Waller has a touchdown.
Didn't see that one. So, okay, he's either the tight end 5 or the tight end 6.
He's a top 10 tight end so far.
Yeah, that is
that one's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But Dawson Knox, I wrote on here, virtually a must start. Randy, do you agree with that for Dawson Knox with what consistency we've seen so far?
Virtually a must start. I'm not fully there.
Yeah.
But it's because of, for that, he's in every week consideration for an absolute must start. I think that's kind of where I'm at. For like start sit questions, my start of the week, I think I would have played him over him this week. I believe I did in a league and I didn't in another, and it worked out in both. So I really don't give a shit. But it's like that. Like, I think he should be on rosters, and you should be deciding between him and that next guy.
Yeah. My A1 tight end was Robert Tonyan. I'd
play Knox right now.
Yeah, for sure. Without a doubt, I would drop Tonyan to pick up Knox if you have that availability. So some tight end love on this show. Very rare. Next guy now. Remember what we said earlier about Jimmy Garoppolo, but Trey Lance is a must add. I think either way, I think you probably should be rostering Trey Lance. Even in redraft leagues, we saw this happen with Justin Herbert last year where he wasn't expected to play, but then he did play, and then he took the league by storm. Trey Lance already did that this week. On 51% of snaps, he had 20 fantasy points on just 9 completions. He completed 50% of his passes. I believe he he threw for 2 touchdowns. I'm going to confirm that. But either way, Trey Lance is one of those Konami code quarterbacks that he is going to score fantasy points. Randy, do you agree that you should be looking to pick up Trey Lance just with the Jimmy Garoppolo injury and whatnot?
Yeah, 100%. Even without it, I've been a proponent of, if possible, stashing him on your bench in one quarterback league so far. I feel like this is a perfect an example of that old the old NFL meme of the coach. They are who we thought they were.
Yep.
This is literally what everyone's like. Well, if he plays, he's probably going to get 20 points a week. And he probably will. It's just one of those. He doesn't. And again, if Jimmy G's out for 1, 2, 3 weeks, I assume there's a game plan for Trey Lance installed. In which this is a sustainable outcome, if not the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. So this happened to the point where there are people on Twitter today calling for changing of quarterback scoring to not favor rushing quarterbacks. A lot of people pushed back on that and said, well, their rushing yards shouldn't be less than running back rushing yards. And ultimately, what I'm saying is draft a quarterback that runs, and you're probably going to be better off in fantasy football. Trey Lance is one of those guys. If he starts this week, it's against Arizona, who has a very tough defense. They actually gave Matthew Stafford some fits, and the Rams. Their pass rush is good. Their coverage is surprisingly good, just with the youth in their secondary. But Trey Lance is going to have a good fantasy day. So stay up on the Jimmy Garoppolo reports. Either way, pick up Trey Lance because now we have hard proof that that's what he is. So
yep,
cool. All right, next up, I'm even a little iffy on this one, but Van Jefferson, the LA Rams wide receiver that everyone knew was going to score fantasy points this year. Everyone, except it was no one. Van Jefferson, I believe, right now is outscoring Robert Woods. He's running more routes than Robert Woods. He's only 13% rostered. He scored 21 fantasy points in week 4. He caught all 6 of his targets for 90 yards and a touchdown. Heading into Monday Night Football, he was wide receiver 35 in PPR through 4 weeks. So flex worthy, not an ideal flex, but with the status of some top guys, is Van Jefferson someone that gets you excited, Randy?
The possibility does, but I think the lingering before the injury happens of Deshaun Jackson has me off of the boat because they are playing the same role in the offense, basically. So for that, I think I'm going to pass from now. But if you want to stash him, I think it's a good call because Deshaun's about a week and a half away from pulling a hamstring. And then Van Jefferson, I mean, he's been used as the deep shot guy. A lot of us, me included, was hoping that was Woods because that does fit some of his skill set. But they're just not using him in that role. It's just all Deshaun or Van. So,
yeah, this is a guy that I'll probably look to. A lot of people are still going to overlook Van Jefferson, I think, this week. And so if you have the top waiver priority or you're spending fab, I think you can save it I don't think you need to use your top waiver priority or really any amount of fab. I'd probably personally throw like $5 down, depending on my fab budget. So like 5% of my budget. Granted, I haven't spent too much because I didn't go crazy on these running backs with like Chuba and Elijah Mitchell and whatnot. So I have some fab to blow. I might blow it on Van Jefferson, get a little reckless. I don't know. All right, next guy.
Around. Took him a van.
All right, next guy. I wrote on here, we sound like broken records. Kenneth Gainwell. We told you to pick him up last week. His usage in the passing game was enough for us to say, hey, maybe roster him. He's a handcuff, but also he's been more than that so far. And it seems as though not everyone listened, and that's okay. Maybe sometimes you need a little more proof, but he's only 44% rostered right now. Scored 20 fantasy points in week 4. This is the main theme. These guys are scoring points, but that's because they're on the field and they're getting usage. This week, Kenneth Gainwell, I'm sorry, buddy. Yeah, I know you don't like being called Kenny. 3 for 31 on the ground and a rushing touchdown. 6 for 58 receiving. So someone compared it. I mean, Sirianni comes from the Colts. The Colts use Nyheim Hines. Kenneth Gainwell is being utilized in a Nyheim Hines role, kind of. Are you interested in Kenneth Gainwell, Randy?
Kind of.
Fair.
My only worry is it seems like we're getting close to a Bills style offense here, where the running backs aren't being used to run, but both are good at pass catching. I'm interested in him for sure, but I mean, he's only going to be at best a flex, and I feel like I don't know if I'd ever play him over like McKissick or Hines,
Yeah. Now, say you pick him up this week, Miles Sanders goes down the following week. How do you feel?
I mean, good, but that's not a healthy or sustainable way to look at fantasy.
No, I agree, but I almost view him as like a high value handcuff at this point too. Someone like a Tony Pollard.
Yeah,
maybe not as good, but
we'll put him in the Madison category.
That's fair. Which that we probably should have talked about Dalvin Cook's injury too. Sorry guys, we might have dropped the ball there. He did come back onto the field, so he's not playing,
so I didn't think it was important.
But the snap share, I did see 11 snaps on rushing downs for Dalvin Cook and 10 for Madison. So we might see that usage again this week. So
yeah, but Madison he had a good amount of rushes just in the time that Cook was hurt, like not playing. So
it's true. All right, we're gonna skip this next one, Randy, and we're gonna go to the aforementioned Darnell Mooney. The reason we are going to Darnell Mooney is because I feel like I gave some bad advice last week, and I said you might just either you hold him or you drop him for someone. Like I would drop him at this point. Now that was bad advice. Darnell Mooney right now is out snapping Allen Robinson, and when I say that, I mean all 4 weeks Darnell Mooney has played in more snaps than Allen Robinson every single week.
Ridiculous.
He has the snap share of the wide receiver 1 for the Bears. I know that's not super high value, but we did just see what that means when Justin Fields plays. I don't think that they're going to play the Lions every week, but I do think that Darnell Mooney can take the top off a little bit, and he can work in this short and intermediate. He's a good wide receiver, guys. Pick him up. If someone panic dropped based on stupid advice from me, probably, then go ahead and pick him up, and I would use a very high priority on him. If you're in a 10-team league, this might not be a guy that you start too often until Fields plays, but he should be on a roster. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would rather have him than Van Jefferson.
Me too. Yeah. And again, this is kind of like a flex play in matchups and also when Fields plays. It's kind of like a stash, a redraft stash, but could be a league winner by the end of the year. Fields takes over. So, And then the last guy that you added to the list, Samaje Perine, 5% rostered right now. With Joe Mixon's injury, Samaje Perine looks to be the next up. I know a lot of people are saying, go ahead and pick up Chris Evans. Not Captain America, but Chris Evans, the running back. He did not see a snap. So Samaje Perine did see, I believe, 3 to 4 snaps after Mixon was a little bit banged up. And he is run as the RB2 there for a while now. So, Randy, take it away. Anything else you want to add on Perine? How high would you prioritize him? Would you take him over Gainwell this week?
No, because I feel like people aren't caring about him. So I feel like he's a guy that you could put like $1 or $2 on and get.
Yeah, that's fair. You do expect that he takes the lion's share of work, right?
Yeah, with Evans maybe taking a couple passing down role work, but not a lot.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, just a name to monitor. If the Mixon news, again, we probably expect Mixon to sit this week, and then he'll be back next week. And so Perine's probably startable this week, but I wouldn't rush to your waiver wire for that. So, okay, and then lastly, I told you we'd have a couple tight ends to talk about. Dalton Schultz. We sound like a broken record. He was on our show, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and we kind of said, it's not our highest priority ad because Blake Jarwin's still there. He's still getting snaps. Gallup is out, and Gallup will be coming back. The thing is, though, guys, Dalton Schultz is a tight end 1. He needs to probably start every week with how they're using him within this offense, and he's only 40% rostered. He scored 17 fantasy points this week, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 58 yards, and 1 touchdown. He is the tight end 3 on the year, pending Darren Waller. And I guess, Donald Parham, because he was having a good day, and Jared Cook, but he's the tight end 3 or 4 on the year. Would you classify Dalton Schultz as a must start from now on?
From now on, I won't say it yet, because like you said, you saw success with Gallup on the field. I want to see it again for a whole game. But while Gallup's still out, he is a must start. And I would say the first week Gallup's back, he's a must start for me. And Jarwin had a touchdown this game. Schultz could have had even better game if they weren't in 12 personnel for that play. It's just how it is, and he still dominated.
Yeah, dude, they ran some 13 personnel and put Jeremy Sprinkle on the field. It's crazy. That the Cowboys have one of the most difficult to defend defense or offenses in the entire league. It's so exciting to watch. It's my favorite team to watch outside of the Browns, and with Baker playing like that, it's not even that fun to watch. So fuck it. Right. Cowboys are my favorite. Shout out Kevin. All right. That'll do it for our waiver wire wish list. Randy, is there anyone else? I know I mentioned that we should probably talk about a quarterback, but I would rather mention that on the Thursday show because I believe I would like to see what quarterback I would stream this week.
Yeah. We mentioned Lance.
Yeah, that's true. We did do that. Okay. Well, that'll do it for the waiver wire wish list, and therefore that will do it for this episode of The Cut. Before we get out of here, guys, make sure you go subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching us live on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, thank you guys for joining us live. But we also have the podcast, and we do have like an exclusive episode every Thursday with our starts and sits, the Thursday night football preview. We give some Thrive advice. It's a fun episode. So make sure you guys go subscribe. We're on all of your favorite podcast apps. Make sure you guys check out all of the shows. The Coach Approach took a week off, but they will be back this Wednesday at 8 p.m. College Football Cut will have Jared back. He was out for a week. Jeff filled in, which was awesome. And so that is Thursdays at 10 p.m. and then Fridays at 8 p.m. as well. These are all Eastern time. Fridays, DFS Deep Dive, where we get really good, actionable fantasy DFS advice, DraftKings advice specifically. So make sure you guys go check that out. I got my all 22 working on my Game Pass, so I'm going to be doing some article breakdowns finally. I've been waiting, and now I feel ready to write some articles, and we've got a lot of great articles from all of our great contributors pumping out there every single week. So make sure you guys go to thecutffb.com and go ahead and bookmark, because it should be your most visited site, in my unbiased opinion. So,
right.
All right, Randy, anything to add?
Nope.
Alrighty. Well, for Randy Hall, I am Christian Williams. We will talk to you guys later this week. Peace.